Oh, and then my slide says 4. Yeah. Okay. Got it. Got it. Okay. And Joyce, you went to a name tag.
Oh, yeah, I'll be back.
Oh, okay. I'll be back.
There you go. I had to get up a little bit, so. Okay, we have a few folks here.
Turns out,
Is
do
there
not
anybody
disturb
else
on my
there
phone.
at the workshop area, friends, that needs to get in still? Or are you gonna try to?
No, like I give it in chat. They're not really responding. Like I do or don't.
Probably message them. Sometimes that works better. Okay, so if we're ready, are you wanting to start things off, or do you want me to start things off? What do you want? What do you think, Lear?
Oh, I can. Here, I'll go ahead and expand my slides and we'll get started. Let's see. I have to, I'm trying to find the Zoom controls to answer Dave's question. Here we go. I'm sharing screen, bringing it up. And hello, everyone. Welcome. This is me standing at Inspire Space Park. So excited about this conference and this AI workshop. And I want to thank my co-presenters and visionaries, Sun Tzu and Rhiannon Chatnoir. And of course, I'm Lear Lobo, and this is VWBPE 2023. And today we're going to talk about a variety of topics. I don't know if you want me to talk about AI history at the opening, Joyce, so I could just introduce us and then turn it over to you.
Sure. Well, actually, if you want to do the history, that's quick, just quick,
Sure.
that's fine.
Okay.
Just because we still have a couple folks coming in, I think. There's just
All right.
this guy coming.
So I'll go ahead and do that. We would plan the history later for those of you who are joining us, and I hope you're having a great conference. Here's the share back. Okay, so this slide is by Dave Sun Tzu, and he created this for the IEEE. Remember that AI classes that he ran 4 weeks of, and that was at the same time that Stanford did their first MOOC, the massive open online course with over 120,000 attendees. I don't know if you were there for it, but it was an amazing experience, right? So anyway, if we're looking at this timeline, and Dave, you can hop in here at any time, we're thinking about the birth of AI, right? And if you were wondering, this is not a new technology. That's the point of this slide. You will see that prior to 1956, we were already thinking about what would it take, right, to model how we think and reason, to make decisions, and then, of course, to expand beyond that. So you'll notice the Lisp language, the logic theorists developed all this early work by many people. Of course, the start of the DoD's Advanced Research Projects work. That's DARPA, for those of us who are very familiar with their work. And before the internet opened, I was part of a DARPA project to analyze and conduct research on the early forms of the internet. I don't know if you know this, but to send messages back and forth to communicate and to contact servers where we did not have an account, we had to put every gateway. We had to know the entire route, right? And if we had a typo, it was like the world's longest address. And if we had a typo, it would fail. So those early days set the stage for what we're enjoying today. And that's our point with this slide. I don't want to belabor it because we want to get to the toys and tools, don't we? And by the way, please use the text chat, smile, have fun. This is your session, okay? So in any event, you'll notice AI-based hardware sells 425 million to companies, and that was around 1986. So that's when it started getting really hot, and we started thinking about the promise of AI. But now the question is, are we really delivering? Is the hype justified, or are we still developing? And that's what we want you to help decide today. You will notice the AI systems beat a human chess master around 1991. And what I'd like to point out is, remember IBM Watson? How many of you remember the Jeopardy game? Anyone? And I'm looking at the chat and looking at the faces. And of course, this is being live streamed over YouTube, so you might be watching this later. That's fine. I was watching that episode when it first was aired, And I was thinking about his strategy. And I was thinking he's so cautious and careful that the Watson was in his bidding strategy, because he had more than double of his opponents for his money that he'd earned right through playing the game. And yet he wagered a very small amount. It was right around 400 or something. I don't remember the exact figure, whereas he could have gone much higher. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, yeah, but the money was going to go to charity, so he's being very conservative. But most of us would have optimized and maximized our gain if we knew we had the right answer. And so this level of confidence and uncertainty is ever present, even in our AI system. So I want you to think about that, because I don't want you to think, well, they're all powerful, they're all knowing, they're always right. Don't think that way. And anyway, I think that's enough on the history for now. Please enjoy our session. And I'm going to turn it over to Joyce for Midjourney.
Can you still hear me? You hear me okay?
Yep, we hear you.
Yes.
Great. Okay, I changed it to my headset. So hi. So we're going to get into AI generated. We're kind of breaking this up into sections, and we're going to get into AI generated art tools first. And I'm going to make a shared. I'm going to share my screen, but also before I do that, I shared a link in the text for like our overall notes, so you can join that and go there. The outline of things is there, and I'll put that here in text chat. This is kind of our overview, and then I'll put some of my stuff. So we're gonna try out a couple tools. The first thing I'm going to kind of start out with, though, is and these are the tools we're going to try for this kind of section of things, and we hope to play around with kind of several tools throughout the time that we're here. The Midjourney, and we'll get into that a little bit more, but Midjourney works through using Discord, which, if you haven't used Discord, it's a kind of a social chatting app, a little bit like Slack if you've used it, or other kind of like messaging sites like that. So those two links there. That first link is to the Avicon Discord server, and right into a channel that you should be in order for us to play. You can use Discord more broadly in IMs. You can in your direct message once you sort of set up and start playing with Discord. But this way it allows us to kind of all play together in one channel. So definitely take some time while I'm kind of going over stuff to go into that link for Midjourney to be in the right place for when we start to play. And then we'll also talk about that skybox generator a little bit later. I'm going to share screen.
I have one thing for you. When
Sure.
you're doing Midjourney, are they in our Avicon channel using the Midjourney you've set up?
Yes. Yeah.
And then the second
So
thing I have, did we give them a Discord invite to that channel in case they're not already a member? Because I have
that's
at
the
least
link.
one member.
The link.
Okay, good. Where is it?
Yeah. Right in the
Okay.
She
chat
just
here.
posted it. Yeah.
Yeah. There'll be the two tools, and if you go to the Discord URL, that's the channel that we will be in. It's an invite
Okay.
that also sends you to the correct channel, the Midjourney
Okay.
channel.
All right.
And so we'll be there. And if Discord is a little disconcerting, we'll kind of get there in a second. I am going to share screen too. Okay. So, and let me pull back up my chat so I can still talk to you guys. Okay. So this is just, oh, did I share the correct screen? Do you see the slide on the side?
No,
Yes?
we just see the main part.
Oh, poo-poo. All right, let me stop sharing and let me
Well,
share
are you
screen.
talking the image of the robot? We see that.
Yes, great.
Yeah, we
Thank
saw
you.
that. Sorry.
Fantastic. So this is kind of, in some ways, this slide was actually a reprisal from a presentation I did earlier in the year on just AI generated content in general. And so it has a little bit of this like intro of what AI generated art and content is, and we're going to get into that more broadly, but right now we're going to talk about the art part of it. So there are many AI generators, generative tools, And I am going to paste some of those into the chat here. And then I'll sort of show you examples of that. We're gonna some of them will be easier for you to jump in. Most of the playing will be in Midjourney directly, but I wanted to kind of show you the other tools as well. So let me open up my chat here. Chat, okay. And so this is also in the doc, but I'll paste it here just so you can kind of follow along. So DALL-E is sort of the one that probably most folks know of, that you can get. And again, all the URLs are right in the chat that I just pasted and in the Google Doc. It is kind of I guess the oldest of the models of the things that are listed in these particular 5, and there are way more AI generative tools out there. I will, and then I'll show you, and I'm going to move to here because you should be able to see that I popped the screen in, right? So DALL-E, of course, and you can, while I was waiting earlier, and I could show you exactly, they kind of all vary a little bit in regards to how they handle both in the way that the models were trained and what you get back for results, but they all work the same thing with prompts, and we'll kind of go over prompts, but in essence, prompts are what you're going to put into the AI generator to kind of create the images, and we'll get into, there's a slide with a bit more of that in a bit. So if you want to explore OpenAI, I'm just going to go through these really quickly, these others. Yes, yeah, like headless was not part of the prompt, but the way that DALL-E trained a lot of its images, they were kind of in these square formats, so they're not always full images. That being said, like if I said, if I change this prompt a little bit, I can.
Plus, don't they also have that AI where you can tell it to add portions of that?
Yeah, DALL-E, it's full version. So like we're kind of using this web version of it. DALL-E, I mean, is and in the text I pasted, it kind of has like the business model of each of them and how many images tries you might be able to get at any given time for a free account, that kind of thing. Oh. And of course it's and if you can mute Dave.
I thought it was muted.
Sorry, that's okay. So I'll show you while it's loading, because on the of course there's a lot of demand on these things, so you'll often get these like server is busy right now. Maybe it's loading. Nope. Okay, we'll go forward to one of the other ones. So a good thing is to sort of try these prompts on these various tools, right? So again, a woman in a red dress holding a black cat sitting at a cafe. This happens to be Dream Studio, which is sort of a web interface for Stable Diffusion. And you can see, yeah, so Stable Diffusion, certainly, yep, we'll get into that briefly. This is their front end version of it. And again, I'll copy paste the link of this. And by all means, they all have some level of free account where they give you so many tries for a certain amount. And I know Lear, you use Stable Diffusion or the Dream Studio quite a lot as your kind of one of choice. But you can see in this sort of way, like how it interpreted it, like maybe this one in the upper right is like the closest kind of one with sort of a funny cat sitting on a table. And then this one, like, no, these are just straight up a blend of cat people and sitting at a cafe, and then a bit more of an illustrative. So, and depending upon how you prompt things, and again, they all have prompt guides, right? So like in the case of this, and the doc that I shared has links to all these sort of things. They'll give you kind of the basics of like how to, you can kind of dive deeper into like for each particular platform, and they all have a lot of similarities on how they deal with prompts, like what it is, the subject matter, and what kind of style, artistic style you might want it in, and all those sort of things, right? So and then this is another version of Night Cafe, and I hadn't run it yet. We'll do 4-inch images, and you could see how, and then it kind of comes up with this. It's funny, I've done this prompt before, as you see, like an earlier version, but it kind of came up with a similar, so you can kind of see the versions of things here. So like this is that. And again, we have another cat person. And they're all kind of the models are all sort of starting from their trained starting points, and then you're honing it by the prompts that you're giving it, right? So that's an example of that. And then there's also Crayon, which we can go to that like very quickly too. I'm kind of holding Midjourney, and let me pull the prompt from here. And
Is there
and again,
much difference in how the prompts are applied, or as long as the base is the same, it's going to use the same prompts more or less?
well, yeah, I mean, so I should say they're different. These various companies have different models. Stable Diffusion is an open source version of it. So there is an open source model itself. So there are many products that use Stable Diffusion as a jumping off point to create other products from. So Stable Diffusion in many other tools you might come across, they may be using Stable Diffusion as its base, So and this is working well, it works. Actually, we can kind of come back to DALL-E too and see if we can generate it. Nope, still busy. And that's still generating. Yep.
Those titanium crystals.
Yeah, well, it's a free scenario, right? So this gives you an example of that. So and DALL-E and also ChatGPT, which is a chat generator that Lear will get into, of course, some other stuff that they're all by a company called OpenAI, which but OpenAI, though it did start out as a non-profit open like a research company, a research thing. In the now, they are for-profit companies, so their models are not open source, right? So you can sort of use things like the like their little front end here. You can sign up for an account through that. You can also kind of pay to use their API if you wanted to use it in an application. So some of these third-party applications will be either going a route of like using Stable Diffusion or some variant of that because it's open, or paying for various other APIs through folks like OpenAI or others. And then Midjourney has its own model. And I'm going to just show you like Midjourney's sort of main site if you go to it, which is just midjourney.com. It looks a little funny at first. And let me kind of go in. Just to show you kind of my my account. Why is it authorizing again? Who knows? So these are the images that I created for some slides and some other stuff, but I'll keep this tab open as well. But you can kind of see, and we'll get into some of these, like the breadth of how you can play with Midjourney. And again, go to that URL. Let me go back to my slides though first before we kind of jump in. Oops. Yeah, okay. So prompts, as I was talking about, and that's kind of the biggest way that you're engaging with these AI models to be able to get to make the graphics, to make the art. So they're obviously the descriptions in natural language that you're inputting into like those various boxes that you were seeing in something like Midjourney. It's where you're entering it in is right into a chat, right into a Discord channel text. And those prompts can be simple, like in a simple sort of, single line of code, like a single line of text, like I was, like you saw with me, a woman in a red dress sitting with a cat sitting in a cafe, that kind of thing, right? It could be a sentence long. The more descriptive and more elements you add to it, the better. Also, you can continue to craft those prompts in regards to adding like art styles and lighting parameters and like how you want an image to be. Is it an illustration? Is it a photograph? Those kind of things. And these images are all created in Midjourney. So this kind of, and while we're here, I don't know if you guys, it might be good in chat. Have you all made it to Discord? And I'm gonna look in Discord over here on my other monitor. And so we can kind of follow along too.
Yeah, we
over
had a
here.
few that joined in our Discord channel during the Zoom.
Okay, so I'm going to start checking. So in Discord, for those who haven't, and I'll just bring this over here so you can, oops. There we go. Let me sort of minimize that for a second and grab Discord. I'm sliding between two monitors, so it might get a little weird. So Discord, and we're in the Avicon server, and you guys are all just as a quick, like, in case you're new to Discord, since it happens here, you guys are probably coming in. You might be coming into introductions, which, you know, hello. And then it works just like a chat kind of program in that regard. And then on the left here, these are lists of channels in this server, right? So you can kind of scroll down and you'll see that these are categories, right? So, and I'll minimize them. You may see it minimized. You can actually expand them, that kind of thing. We have on various topics. I'm going to minimize a bunch of things. The one you want to look for is this section on AI tools, tech, and talk. And we happen to be in the Midjourney channel. So if you find it, you can say hello there. We're here. Did folks make their way there? If you can kind of say hello or yes, or emojis work too. Fantastic. And okay, so let me go back to the slides real quickly. So, and you guys can continue to sort of say hello. So in regards to prompts, so the basis for, like, in Midjourney now we're talking specifically about Midjourney, and many of them have different other ways that they deal with how you're entering prompts. But because Midjourney is using another tool like Discord, they had to come up with all these sort of slash commands in order to be able to, like, work within it. So the base kind of command is this whole imagine here, right? I'll show you that in just a second. But in essence, you'll be able to type that into chat and then from there hit enter and then start to write your prompt, right? And again, like, so prompts can include, like, you know, maybe you want it in the style of an artist, or based on certain themes, or what resolution you want it to kind of look like, or how it's rendered, or like what kind of a lens or camera, or artistic, like watercolor medium, those kind of things, right? And any effects or styles, right? And you know, this text down here is pretty much kind of what this graphic is kind of going for too. So I will we could kind of do a quick example, and then I'll kind of explain versions in a second. I'm going to keep hopping back and forth kind of between Midjourney, but if you're in Midjourney, that's what mostly matters. So here in Midjourney, and you'll see my screen up again. If you click the slash command of the forward slash, you'll sort of see the various commands, and Discord itself has commands, so it can be a little confusing, but you'll sort of see here, like they're like, just like in the structure on the side, they have a category. So there might be some other bots that are in our Discord server, but what Midjourney commands you have are all under the Midjourney category, and you'll sort of see. So
Oh, now you can ask it other things. That's interesting.
yeah, you can ask it other things, and we'll get into that a little bit, right? So the biggest one, though, is imagine. If you remember nothing else, remember imagine. So imagine, and again, you can just type this forward slash, and you will get all the list of, in case you forget. So type imagine, then hit enter, and then you'll get a box for the prompt. And Marcus is already playing. It's good to see Marcus there.
Second leg parties.
And so you could type in anything here. So we can do that same, you know, a woman wearing a red dress, sitting with a cat at a cafe, or some variant of that I had in the other ones. And it'll take a little bit, right? It's not an instantaneous. It'll tell you, like, if it's waiting to start, and you will. And I should say, and this is in the notes as well, like, you get so many free tries. Like, I have a paid account, so if there's anything you want me to try, you get to a limit. But I would take it a little slow, because it's easy to go through. Is it like 20 or 25? I can't remember. It's in the notes though, exactly. And
The mint julep, that's cool.
yeah, with a mint julep. And so you know, whatever your prompts are, you'll start to get, and so, you know, if each of you can kind of do that / imagine and be able to kind of just, you know, and then hit enter, right? Hit enter and then type in whatever you want. And I would say just do a simple command, a simple prompt right now, like, you know. Yep. And you can sort of see as images start to emerge, right? And without putting in style information, like I want it to be an illustration or a photo or like medium or style, it kind of pulls it from all various things. And again, these are trained on, the models are trained on all, you know, a wide body of photographs and art and illustrations and paintings and those sort of things. So you can kind of see this is the whole, and you could kind of compare. It's funny that the cat is red. I think I clarified black in the other ones, but I didn't here, so it pulled red also into the cat's color. And there's another one. Oh, that's very interesting. I love how you have cat hackers here in the upper right.
That's good.
Yeah. And then this one's still thing, and yep. So Midjourney also has this interesting, and again, and I'll show you, I have lots of channels, so if you're in Midjourney, your far left probably looks nothing like mine. But you'll see, like, there are various servers, like, right, we're right now in the Avicon server. If you went into the very upper right, don't do this now, but in the very upper right, you'll see the little Discord logo, and you can click there, and there's all your direct messages. And if you actually go to Midjourney bot, once you start playing with Midjourney, you suddenly now get Midjourney bot as like a friend in Discord. And you can also type imagine, you know, into your direct message with it if you want to not do it so publicly, if you're lurking on things that you know don't want to do in a public channel. So and I will go back to our Avicon server, and let's start finish rendering. Yep. So here we have definitely a lot of, you know, difference in regards to style of Renoir. That's nice. And you know, operating
Very
room.
photorealistic on that one, yeah.
Yeah. And it's definitely interesting, and you can obviously make this even more so, right? So this is like the simple prompts and in regards to this, and you can keep playing with this until you run out of credits. I'm going to hop back for myself and you could keep playing in here while I'm going to run back to my other slides for a
Did you
second.
mention the upscaling and
Yeah, well,
variations?
we can actually, yeah, while I'm in there, let me go back. Good point.
I was just thinking as they're playing, it gives them a little
Yeah,
more to play
so as
with.
you're playing, and it's a good thing to understand it. So when you do the prompt, it gives you back 4 images, right? And these are like, it's all these quick things. So to understand, you know, you'll see the 4 images here. To understand this, and Professor Grace is already doing it, you'll see this U1 through 4 and V1 through 4, and then the little like repeat button here. So you means that you want to upscale, as Dave was saying. So you want to make you want a large version of just that image. So the way it works is this is 1, then 2. So like upper left is 1, upper right is 2, and then lower left is 3, and lower right is 4. So you can upscale any image, and then variations will also give you variations of that image, which sometime if you're like, oh, I'm very close to but maybe I want to make a variation of this particular image, like a variation of 4. And you can, and the thing about doing it in public together like this, it's sort of like a very mashup kind of experience, because I can choose to upscale or make variations of anybody else's images that I can see here, right? So it's a very kind of public collaborative thing.
Now, Joyce,
And
to that note, when they make a change to theirs or someone else's, does it preserve the history of what they've created?
well, it will show up. So it definitely will stay here in this thread. So you can always go back to the Midjourney thread and find your stuff, right? And then if you have a paid account as I do, right, then when you're in Midjourney itself, in that on the Midjourney site, right, like this Midjourney site, it will show you all the things you've ever created, right? Like, and I'm going
I
to
think you
grab.
get that even if you have the free account, because I was able to see all the stuff I created on that too.
Okay. So yeah, so you can go to midjourney.com directly and like look at your profile. And that's a way that you can kind of see these things as well. And you know, you can see like I have lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of images depending upon and it keeps going. I won't go down. But so you can see, and if I reload this from before, you'll see that, well, there's none new here yet, but it'll start to like bring into play. It's probably rendering that other image that I just asked for an upscale of. So that's what these are, upscale. And remember that each time you do these generations, that counts towards your credit, right? So it's very easy to go through your free kind of credits very quickly, you know, as just a reminder in that regard. And let me
Nice,
go
Kay.
back. Yeah, those are really pretty. I like the rainbowishy colors. So the other thing, again, you can start to play around with prompts. I will show you another thing as well, right? So say I love this rose, right? And I can, and I want to use, say I love an image that I came up with, or an image that I from outside of Discord, right? But we'll start with this rose. There are other prompts that you can do besides the whole just /imagine. And there are other ways to kind of do with it. So I'm going to click this and then I can go and any of you, this is how you can save your image or open it in a new window, and that actually will bring you to your profile or bring you to the image of it, right? So, you know, you can sort of see it fully. Back to Discord. So I can actually copy the link to this image, which is like the link to share it if you wanted to. And I could say, you know, imagine, /imagine, just like it normally would. And then I say, okay, this rose is now part of my prompt. I don't think I need the height stuff, just the image. So just to the PNG part. Oops, and I think I hit.
There's nothing you have to precursor it with. Just the
Yeah,
imagine prompt.
Actually. And it will now make that as part of it will make it as a resource like that it is adding to the prompt. So now it has visual reference and your prompt to be able to. So now, granted, this is not like it's a giant close-up of a rose. It may not come out to the way that we want, but you will sort of see that it will start to blend things in that regard, or it'll incorporate that as part of your image. So or like be influenced by that.
Doesn't have
know?
a sense of scale from the looks of it. Yeah.
No, it's going to kind of, and I think it's better when you're doing things like let's say this woman, copy link.
You could put something else in her hands, right?
Yeah,
Like
or
a Coke or whatever. Yeah.
So, and then that, and then I could say holding a, I'm just going to say rose, even though that's not in there. Although you can actually add more than one image. So I could put the link to that image and the link to the rose, and then it would have reference for both of those things to be able to pull in.
Okay,
You know, mileage will still vary, but it's a way that you can actually, besides just text, you can pull in images as your prompts. The other thing that is interesting, we're talking about blend.
Oh, blend,
Um,
okay.
If I did slash blend as a thing, you know, and then I hit enter, and then the minute you do that, this is a way to actually fuse two images, of which, let's see if I'm
So
going to
you
pull.
could actually shoot things yourself, have them as your own photography and blend them with that too,
Yeah, I
right?
mean, you know, granted, it will kind of, I'm going to pull, so I'm going to pull an image of something that I had done prior to in Midjourney and merge it with, let's see if I find something else. Oh, I'm going to merge it with my own face. And and you could do multiple images. You see down here, it says +4. I can
Plus
keep
6,
adding
yeah.
in. You know, I can keep kind of adding in, but if I hit enter now, it will blend those two things. And I can still also add in text, right? So if I want to say, you know, the blend, put in the images you want to blend together and some other part of the prompt, like, you know, like you want it to be in a certain style or something, it will do that. And where are we?
Just below there, I think.
Yeah.
That one that's coming in right
Oh,
there, I
yeah.
think is the one.
So yeah, you'll see that it kind of took my image and that art, and it's still loading, but oh kitties. And it kind of makes some variant of a mix of like what my photo of my face and along with that art style, and it makes sort of something like this. So that's another way to kind of, and then I can even be like, okay, like, you know, you could kind of take it from there. I could make an image of this. You know, I could say, okay, upscale, you know, this first one, get that image, and then I could keep blending it with other things, because you could always, like I said, open up an image, like say this, and copy, you know, copy the image link, you know, so I could continue to kind of blend, or I could continue to kind of add additional prompts to keep refining an image as we go. So I'm going to go back to the slides for a
Oh,
sec
and
to see.
one note on upscaling, you can only upscale initially here on an image, either the image of the 4 or the single ones, but when you're done with the image, let's say you wanted to make it big enough to put on a wall, you can actually take that same image and take it to other AI art generators that will do the upscaling for you. So you just have to Google AI upscale and you'll find a bunch of them that are out there. Some are free, some want you to pay.
And that's, and there are some tools like DALL-E has that sort of has more tools built into it, and there's a few others in the list of resources that are kind of like that, where you have the ability to be able to upscale or to like continue the image past the boundaries that do not exist yet, to like make it sort of larger. So like here's, you know, an upscale of that combination of that art style image along with the portrait the photo of myself. And let me go back to the slides to see where I am on that. Here. The other thing I wanted to bring up about Midjourney is that, again, it's its own model, like just like OpenAI has the whole DALL-E and its model, and Stable Diffusion is its own model that, like, you know, they're in Midjourney's thing, they have continued to keep refining on their model. And this was an example of, like, right now, the main version right now is version 4, though version 5 just came out. And I'll show you in a second how you can kind of change between one version or the other on how you're rendering things. But you could sort of see as the model improved, you know, this same prompt of like a dog at a computer. It was just a really simple thing, you know. In the version 1, when DALL-E first was sort of starting out, it was sort of this weird, okay, there's kind of some fur and there's some computer objects and screens, and that's sort of a dog with some computers, right? A dog at a computer. And then this, where it's sort of like, I don't quite know what a dog is yet, and it's sort of hovering over something that might be a keyboard on version 2. And then
Or
it's
a
like, okay,
calculator.
yeah, or a calculator or whatever it is. And, you know, version 3 here, we're getting a little closer where it's a little stylized. And some people actually, you know, there's merit in regards to like sometimes going back and using earlier versions. Some people like version 3 because it actually sort of is stylized in a certain way. So it gives it kind of its own feel that some people like in a more, it has its almost more its own creative style in a way. So this is again, dog at a computer. It's sort of in the computer, I think. Version 4, which is what we're currently on. And it again is still got a bit of that stylized, and then version 5, like right out of the, and again, I'm not giving it any additional prompts, right? So I'm not telling it to like do something in a style. So it just sort of gave it to me in a photorealistic kind of way, right? But as
And-
it's continued its versions, even just a basic prompt gets you a much better image to start from. So what were you going to say, Dave?
Oh, in the Discord, can you ask for earlier versions when you do your
Yeah,
prompt, or-
so yep, we can do that. And let me go back to Discord here. So I'm going to show you another kind of back to those slash settings, right? So slash, and there is a settings in Midjourney, and Midjourney's icon looks like this little kind of wave thing. So if I go into settings, and this is for your own settings, this isn't settings across the board globally, right? So I would hit that and I would hit enter, and it pulls this up for me, right? So these are my personal settings.
Oh, you
And
can even do version 5 there. That's
yeah,
interesting.
so we can you can jump to version 5. And then I'm not, these other modes, I'm not so familiar with these, right? So these are, I guess, other kind of like test betas that they were playing around with, like, right? So, mileage might vary. I've not ever used any of those. And then this also sort of sets like the quality that it's giving you right off the bat. So is it half quality or base quality? By default, it's always on base quality. I wouldn't really change it. You can move it to high quality, but I wouldn't do that unless you have a paid account, because as you see, it chews up your free credits like twice as fast, right? And then this is like what style, low, medium, hot, and high, and very high means. And you can set these things within the prompt itself, right? But these are like, you know what, I'm gonna change my settings for a little bit because I know I want to do a batch of images that it is important to me that style, like say you want it in the style of Muka, or the other person was sort of doing some stuff in regards to like to another artist or Rembrandt or whatever. If it's very important that you really want that image to be as heavily stylized in what you're putting in your prompt, you could change these here, right? But I wouldn't change these on the fly because you may forget about them if you just stop it, but you certainly could change them.
Probably takes
And
longer to render would be my guess. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, but it doesn't affect your credits. So, I mean, if
Yeah.
you want the time to wait, you can definitely play with it. And then again, you have public stealth mode, I guess just means people aren't seeing you, but you can do that by going into your direct messages with Midjourney, right? And itself, if you wanted to do that. And I have not played around with remix mode. I happen to have fast mode on, but you can put it to relax mode, and that will actually give you more credits, which but so I can, and the funny thing is because I've already set settings, like I can go back in here. So if I want to start using Midjourney 5, I can just click on it, and now it'll be Midjourney 5 that I'm using as it's it's Midjourney 5 model version. So so you can play around with there. And again, some of this stuff, like some people like 3 because it's very stylized. But you may not even have to ever play with these things if you don't want to. But that is a way to change your styles. And that is only happening to you, not to anybody else. And I think that's it for my kind of base slides. And I'll just minimize that. But at least this gives you kind of a basic of thing. In the notes that I have that we have, right? So we have the whole step by step of kind of like the Midjourney once in the channel, how to click that. It would actually be, this is not input, it would be imagine. That's the thing to remember, and then click enter, and then you can kind of go from there, right? And also in the notes are, depending upon, and I would encourage you, like, again, play with Midjourney Midjourney is probably the best in regards to the quality of the images you will get out with just even some simple prompts without a lot of expertise in playing around with things, right? So if you like, I want a really quick, good image of something, or know that like I don't have to wrestle through some of the problems like we were seeing with like the Catwoman, or things like that. It's like Midjourney is refined enough through its iterations that it gives you sort of really good results in the regard to things. But of course, it is not. It's only free to a point, as I have up here 25 images. So 25, and as you saw, you change your settings to higher quality. Well, that counts as double as you losing it twice as fast. So and all these images here in the notes are for various ways to continue to kind of learn how to use prompting. So there's a bunch here for Stable Diffusion. There's a bunch here for Midjourney, including Midjourney's own, like, and this is a good place to sort of start if you're just starting off. Like Midjourney is in its own documents has like a good prompt section where it talks about like things like what's a basic prompt,
Cool.
and some notes and things like that. And then like exploring prompts where like it breaks down like, okay, like that little diagram I had where like, okay, you can pick a medium, right? Like, and they show here, like maybe it's a cyanotype or it's graffiti or it's,
Cross stitch is cool.
yeah, cross stitch or all those sort of things. So, you can add that sort of medium to things. You can get specific in regards to like, you want it to be a sketch, right? Or I've seen people ask for things like want to be a coloring book page or something if you wanted to play with it more after that. You can get into different other things like, like they're actually doing time here as a parameter. So you can say, I want a poster art image or film poster image from the 1980s of this particular thing, right? And it will stylize it. Or I want a pinup from the 50s of this particular, Oh, emotes. This blew my mind when I saw it, and I think I have an example. But like you can actually just use even emotes in Discord as a prompt. So I can type /imagine, and then I can either paste or I can kind of go into let me see. Cat emote. So I can copy, I went to a web page to just find a quick emoji. Here is an emoji of a cat. Oops, sorry, you can't see it. That's an emoji of a cat. And then I can hit enter and it knows it's a cat. So even emojis will work as prompts for Midjourney, which is pretty simple and cool and mind-blowing at the same time when I learned about that. So, and it, so it knows. And you could do all kinds of crazy, like there's like, if it's like stylized things like a hacker cat, or like that's like another one's here, or like other emojis, so this is just a prompt off of using shorthand for cat instead of the word cat. And again, that would work with anything. You want to use the poop emoji? Sure. or whatever, right? And
But be careful if you do something
yes,
not safe
remember
for work,
I was going to say, remember
you
you're in
might
a
get
public
banned.
server.
Yeah.
And yeah, and yes, and there are Midjourney, because it is kind of such this public thing, they do have kind of standards in regards to that you can't do X-rated R stuff, so back to the whole prompts, like obviously you can affect, like you can say colorful as a prompt. You can also add in colors, you can again tell that things are in like in the desert or under the sea, or like in whatever. So like you can kind of and again for prompts it also gets into the whole blend thing, right? So you can blend various images and others. So I would look at these various resources to get better at creating better prompts. And there are also many many kind of like books, both in regards to Stable Diffusion and also Midjourney. Like this is a particular person who is a Second Lifer who published a book, and you can get it for free on Kindle, but craft book for generative art, and also has some nice resources that she did on video as well. So you can kind of, well, you can kind of look through those as well. And there are some where they've gotten very analytical about it, like a style database, and which, also could be a useful thing where like with artist types and various tags. And then you have some that are, other modifiers, like maybe the 50s or time or those kind of things, or,
And don't these
colorful.
vary depending on the
Yeah, they're going to
version
vary on
too?
between the
Some of them
model.
you won't be able to use like in version
Yeah.
5 that you used in version 3 or 4.
Yeah. So yeah, because they were worried about things like copyright or people of various artists complaining that like their styles were being wholesale kind of like,
Ripped off, yeah.
yeah, ripped off, and also like continued to be, because you can and there's some good articles, we can get into that much later, but there's some good articles at the very bottom of the notes that talk into some of the ethical and future stuff and points of view from a creator artist point of view and all that good stuff, like way at the bottom of in the resources that we won't go over today, but are useful. So definitely explore these in regards to bettering your prompts, and know that all these tools or any of the art generative tools kind of work similarly in regards to you're giving it at some sort of prompt, and then from there and refining that prompt, and as you see in Discord, you can take images and continue to even iterate from them, right? So the rabbit that she just had, you can make variations of that, and continue to kind of iterate to be able to get both through variations and iterations, and the prompts that you put in, and also whether those be image prompts, as I showed, or text prompts, and how that can kind of affect things, so you can kind of keep kind of honing in on the image that you want, and this is really a cute Easter image, by the way.
Oh, that's
whoever's
very
making-
nice.
Yeah,
And Christopher's got a couple comments in the text chat as well, just to let you know.
sure.
One is about selling the images, so I thought you might want to touch on that if you had.
Yeah, so the way that they kind of have it is that license will vary depending upon, right? And there is still, and this is kind of one of those things too, and this is sort of further discussion that we can talk about later too at the end, like there's a lot of like images because they're generated through the AI. Granted, there's still some debate over this, but at least in regards to copyright laws and things like that, they are not considered copyrightable, right? And so, and most of the generators, terms of service will vary from one service to another, right? So I think, and I'd have to look at Midjourney again, but I know if you have a paid account, you can use it however you want, commercially or otherwise. I'm not sure
I didn't think you could. I thought it was restricted.
No.
Okay.
But I'm not sure in the free accounts if you can that, or if it would still be an uncommercial scenario.
Okay.
But and then something like Stable Diffusion. Stable Diffusion is an open
source. Yeah.
Open source, so you can actually download Stable Diffusion, and there are tools, and Dave will get into kind of some of that, like training your own AIs, and there are many tools to train AI, train your own AI model. And usually what that means is you're refining an existing model. And so there are several that because Stable Diffusion is open source, that they allow you to sort of make a variation of the model by you adding your own images to train it. And there are some apps that work like that. Dave is going to go into that. So you can kind of further kind of hone and almost create your own model that's running on your own machine, even if you want to, because you can actually just download Stable Diffusion and run it yourself, and not on the web. So
a little bit intense on your resources too, though.
Yeah, and there is
download.
Yeah, although, the model's small enough like that because it's kind of accessing thing, it's not too bad. But yeah, you will probably want at least a
My
gaming
Asus
machine.
was chugging on it.
Yeah, you
But
probably
I
want
just
will
sent it
want
into
at
the
least a gaming
shop
machine.
anyway, so it might have been that. I don't know.
Yeah. But with that, I would say continue to play in Discord here, right? And I will kind of turning it over to you because you should dive into your
Yeah,
part.
we need to get going to the next section.
Yep.
All right, thanks, Joyce. I appreciate it. That was very interesting. A lot of things I'd never seen before. I'd only used it at the basic level. You really dived a lot deeper. So that was really cool. All right, let's see. Share screen. How do I do this? Advanced sharing options. Is that what I go to? Or for some reason it's not giving me my usual prompt. It says one participant can share at a time, but it's not letting, I have to be promoted to share or something. Oh, there we go. Now it came in. Okay, so let's go. I want to do, which desktop am I doing? I'm doing this one. Yeah, I'm doing this one. Oh, actually, sorry, I need to do it with sound. Otherwise you won't hear. Where's my Discord? There it is.
Isn't that lovely?
Stop share. Okay, let me move this over so I don't lose the screen again. All right, start share. Share with sound and desktop one. Okay, there we go. So you should be seeing Harry Potter, right? Now you know what I do at night. All right, let's see. So let me go to my keynote. Are you seeing the AI, train the
Yes.
AI?
Yes,
Everybody seeing
yes.
it okay? Okay. All right, so Joyce talked a lot about writing the prompts. And what I'm going to do is take a look at a second way of doing things. In a lot of cases, people do a combination of both of them, as she showed you some examples where you can blend things together. In this case, what you're basically going to do is you're going to train the AI to understand something so that it can create from scratch, more or less, what those things are. Now, granted, I say from scratch, but it has a lot of base models in it and things like that that it's drawing upon so that it understands these things. But it's creating, it's not just taking a chunk of somebody's face and slapping it on somebody else's body. It's more complex than that. So we take a look here. Let's see, am I in present? I don't think I'm in present mode, but let me get this thing down here. Problem is I got all these things popping up on me. Here's my play button. There we go. Now we should be full screen. Okay, good. So, all right. So first off, I always thought that AI was kind of a circus, so I kind of used that as my metaphor. AI avatars is one thing that we're going to be looking at on the image side. I upload anywhere from 10 to 20 photos of a person, a couple, a dog, or a cat, and the AI imagines the artwork based off of them. Let me post some links for you here too, if I can figure out how to do this. How do you get to your chat? There we go. There we go. There's the AI avatars and the links. And I haven't tested the Android one out yet. I think it does the same as the iPhone, but it might, mileage might vary. With this one, it actually comes in this other app, and it's like a sub portion of the app, but you don't have to have the subscription to use it. The second one we're going to look at is Voice AI. Voice.ai is the actual website. You can train an existing personality voice or upload at least 15 minutes of your own voice or your own, whoever. If you wanted Bruce Lee, you could clip little pieces of Bruce Lee's voice together until you get 15 minutes worth and upload that, and it would train it so that you can talk and you'll speak like the other person. You can also use this for recordings or live voice over internet protocol, or VoIP, which is what we're on right now, is a VoIP type thing with Zoom. Skype's that way, so is Discord when you go into voice channels. Now, this is one example. Are you seeing my, okay, good. You don't see the overlay on it of my Zoom call, okay? So as you see here, this is my dog, Honey Bear. Hi, sweetie. He's just down below me right now, looking up at me, wondering why I'm talking about her. She's in the bottom right corner. That was one of the 20 images I uploaded. And what it did is it made artwork of her. You know, I mean, it cost me 99 cents to create it, you know, not a big deal, but I was really impressed by how well it did the art. You know, you can't really with this pick your style and things and have prompts and stuff like you saw with Joyce's stuff with Midjourney. This one, you just upload your images and it spits out 50 different photos, and then some are going to be good and some are not as good. But I was really impressed by it. It did some really great artwork. And then this one I did of my cat, Bootsy Bell. So you can see my cat's in the bottom right corner. She's a black tuxedo cat with a little patch of white under her chin. So it did a number of ones. You can see here, the one in the top right has very large hindquarters, so it looks a little unreal. Also the one that looks almost like an alien here with the green and blue sunglasses, but still cute. Then I did some of myself. Now you can see, notice the guy on the left-hand side here. He looks almost like some kind of movie star to me, but I also noticed his collar. If you look on the right side there, you can see through the collar like there's a hole in it. If you look at the left side, at the very bottom of the collar instead of the back of the collar, it has a double collar. So the AI sometimes has problems understanding how to draw things correctly. But again, we're just in the first year for a lot of this technology. So imagine this is at the infant stage, of the crawl stage. What is this going to be like when it really gets running? So that was all using photography, using images to basically upload and create the knowledge base for the AI to do its artwork with. This next one, and Lear, could you post the text from this in the local? It's just mainly the https://voice.ai is the one I need. But here you're seeing, this is one that's in a beta test now, so it's still kind of infant stages. But basically, there's a whole bunch of different voices that are in there. I've downloaded ones like Arnold Schwarzenegger, which I'm going to show you in a bit, Homer Simpson. I also did one with your favorite rooster, which we'll see in a little bit. That's Foghorn Leghorn, in case you didn't remember. And you click on the left-hand button where the microphone is, then you pick your character on the center part, and then you click on the left one to start the recording. You say what you want to say, and then you hit stop. And then what it does is it records that in that person's voice using the AI to make it sound like that person. Now, you do better if you listen and you study that person's delivery style, because how they phrase things, there's some people like the ones that tell you the rest of the story. They have a very deliberate delivery style. Or another one is from Star Trek, Captain James T. Kirk. So he has each of them has a very definitive style in the way they say things. So if you wanted to come across like them, this will change their voice, but you really got to try to match their delivery style and their rate, their pacing and things like that as well. And then you can download these clips. Now, for the free account, you can only do up to 15 seconds, and the last portion of it, last couple seconds, will be things saying voice AI. But you can take that into a free editing program like Audacity and slice and dice it up and, put yourself together your own little clip. Now, as you see on the right-hand side here, these are some of the different things that you can use it in live. If you have I think that might just be the live mode for the paid accounts, but I could actually use it on Discord, and I could talk like James T. Kirk all the time in my meetings, or on Skype, or in Zoom, or in World of Warcraft, Fortnite, Minecraft. So pretty cool. But again, that's at the beta stage. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't as much. Let me go back and look at one more thing. The other thing is you have credits on the right here. So those credits they give you the ability to train voices, and you can earn credits over time. You get a certain amount when you first start, but it takes the coins, which you can either earn or buy, to actually train a voice. All right, and here's one I did. I did our favorite, the guy that's really done probably the most next to Turing when it comes to AI, but he put the fear of AI in everybody's hearts. So let's see what the exterminator's like. Oh, we'll go back. I guess.
I used to be known as the Terminator. Now I am just the Exterminator. But no pain, no gain. So now I need to get back to work, as this job really bugs me. Hasta la vista, buggy.
Now, were you able to hear the audio okay with that?
Yes, yes.
Okay, I just
Came
want to
through
make sure.
okay. Yeah.
All right, so, and here's one I did with Foghorn Leghorn. It's just the start of what I'm doing.
It's Easter. Pay attention to me, boy. I'm not just talking to hear my head roar.
So in summary, we've covered AI avatars and voice AI. You'll have all the links to this and also the slide. I'll drop the link to these slides for you as well. But that'll also be, I believe, in the document too. It is. So that's all I got, unless anybody's got some questions, or we're gonna hold that to the end. And I'll pass things back over to you, Lear.
That's great. Hey, I had to find all the windows. I was in world chatting because I love the Hasta la Vista. But thank you, Dave. Now, one thing to realize with the voice.ai is that it's under beta. And so always look at the terms of agreement before you post your content somewhere. Make sure, because they may have some reservations on what you do. So I'm going to share my screen and let's see, I suppose, yeah, we'll just share the screen rather than the slides for right now. So we left off right here. And one thing, and I'm going to enlarge this because I know how gruesome it is to look at documents. I teach online, right? And I'm always enlarging things. So we've been talking about all these AI art technologies. And of course, one thing I wanted to mention with Stable Diffusion, and let's see, where do I have mine? Here it is. When you're in here, similar to what Joyce had mentioned, you can do some of the same things. You can increase some of the complexities, but lastly, you can also say in the style of Titian, in the style of Rembrandt, or, and of course, those folks are not going to get offended or come challenge your copyright or your ability to emulate them. It will also save all of your work, similar to what Midjourney did, if you do not clear your cache. When you clear your cache, your history goes away, and they warn you of this. And this is with I do have a paid account, but it's very cheap. These are the things I've queried. And of course, I liked this one. I took my profile pic from Virtual Ability and I put it in here, and I liked that one. The rest of them, I'm looking a little strange, right? Just a little. And then, and then of course, we were laughing over the fact that sometimes I look like a horse's head, okay? And the prompt was that I wanted a woman riding on a horse with long red hair in medieval dress. And I gave it a starting photo of me teaching with Pikes Peak in the background and the Garden of the Gods. And this is what it came up with. And I said, well, that's everything I asked for, right? So please realize, and of course, I was not spending a lot of money. Now, you may wonder, I know all of you have been saying, how much do things cost? You can always look at your count. This is always tricky when you look at your count live on a video. Mine still has like 87 free credits from the free thing. And I paid $10 in December. And I have not used any of that money yet. And I've done about 80 images. So in case you were wondering, you can do a lot with it. And this is Stable Diffusion I'm looking at here. You can get very complex and have lots of steps, better quality. So if you were doing something for a book cover, let's say, or for one of your papers, or for your class, and you wanted some very custom activities, you could set this up and do it. And it could be a collaborative thing in the classroom. Well, let's get back to where we're at. And I'm going to skip on down in that document past Sun Tzu's. And here I am. And they called me advanced AI, right? I don't think of it this way. When I proposed this session, and yes, we have 11 minutes left, I was thinking about how all of you would play with toys and tools, right? And how we would each get this experience. that we could then discuss as we go to the quadriviums and how we meet at these workshops and how we see all the different ways in which we're using this technology. And I really wanted to do some deep thinking about it. So you will notice that this technology, the OpenAI technologies, were launched in November 30th, 2022. And within 5 days, they hit 1 million subscribers. Now that's amazing, because if you think about that, that's a very fast time to market and widespread innovation. And of course, it's exploded ever since. I don't know if you noticed in Discord, and let me see, I think I'm sharing the entire screen, but let me take a look. Am I sharing the entire screen, or
You
are
are,
you guys?
whatever.
Okay, good.
We see
Okay.
you now. You see your.
Yeah. Oops, that's because it swapped back over. So let me go back to my Discord for just a moment. And this is always tricky. I got to make sure I don't look at the wrong thing, right? But if you join, you can join the OpenAI group.
We just see your
This-
video. I think we lost your screen.
Okay, I'll switch it. That's always good to know. So I'll do a little switcheroo. So you can join the OpenAI
see it now.
Discord server. Great. And what's interesting about this is to see all the chatter. Now, of course, it's giving me a lot of other stuff because I'm in a special event right now. Let's see, here we go. But if I close all this and get back, they of course want me to boost the server. I'm not going to click anything right now, but they have new server rules. Once you get in here, you can listen to close to 1 million voices talking to you, at least 200,000. And I know you're thinking, I never want to do that. But what's interesting is it's interesting to see how people all around the world are using this technology and also trying to shape where it's going. Well, I'll stop looking at that for a moment and let's skip on down to some examples. Now, I noticed that Christopher had linked in the Zoom chat. So if you didn't see it, he had linked in poe.com. That's POE.com. And of course, you'll notice it's a departure point for all these other technologies. So you can get to GPT-4 with limited access because you have to have an API or you have to have an account with them. Claude Plus and some others, the free access ones, etc. But what's interesting is more and more people are thinking about how people collaborate and use these products with other products, which reminds me, did you see the South Park episode? I'm not going to play it, don't worry. But you need to see the South Park episode called Deep Learning, okay? And yes, you can put on your obscenity filter because Cartman has a fit, right? He's very upset, but everyone uses ChatGPT in the episode. And what's interesting, except perhaps the principal, okay? And what's interesting about it is even the teachers are using it to grade really long papers that, of course, not written by the students, okay? And so when we think about these things, and I know you're thinking, what about Chat Zero? What about all these tools we can use to detect the use of AI? And what, how will we frame the experience so that our learners are learning and that they can demonstrate that they're not just acquiring knowledge, but constructing knowledge? Well, I invite you to think about all the different ways in which we use these technologies. I just realized one of my links is not here, but let me go back to ChatGPT, speaking of which. Now, they give you examples of prompts, and prompt engineering is arguably perhaps one of the new career paths, right? To frame really good queries that give you excellent results, because these technologies are not as smart as they're cracked up to be, in my opinion. And everyone who knows me has heard me complain about my references. How many of you remember this? Okay. I last week was writing a book chapter and I thought, my references are in 4 different types of APA style, from APA style 4 through 7. Wouldn't it be nice if this tool could gather my references for me? Because I publish them, that's my work, and then put them in order and put them in format. Wouldn't that be nice? So I asked it very politely. And with my collaborator, Dr. Stricker, and it gave me 6 references, but they were not mine. It fabricated references from medical journals, and I am not in the field of medicine. I'm in computer science. So of course I was indignant. I was thinking of my reputation being damaged by this terrible tool. So I said, let's try again. And I told it, hey, these are all wrong. Let me give you more information. And I asked again. And once again, it gave me a whole set of incorrect results. And I was very upset. I might be upset in this channel here. One never knows. But in any event, I was like, oh my gosh, what are you doing? And of course, it apologized nicely. Here it is. I apologize for the error in the previous response. And I'm like, I could care less about the apology. Could we get it right? Right. And I gave it our names. And what's interesting is it lifted my middle initial that I keep private, that I don't put out in any of my documents or anywhere. I know I'm disclosing it, but hey, it's out there, right? And it picked up things that were accurate, but then all of this other stuff is wrong, all of it. And I started thinking, I thought, I wonder if it's telling anyone else this stuff about me. And one of the papers is actually by an NMC member who's a friend, who brought me into Second Life in 2005. So, so I'm like, And the last thing we want is misinformation going out there about ourselves and how we feel about our craft. So this is one thing I want you to think about. This is a generative tool. When we use the word G, the letter G in the AGI, we're really thinking about creativity and complex problem solving. And so this is the part that's perhaps the advanced. You would know that in my research at Virtual Harmony, we look at complex problems. And when we do this, we're always thinking about how do we solve problems that do not have a solution? Or how do we investigate the parameters and the decision criteria that matters, right? And so I got to thinking about this and I thought, so creativity and exploring the art of the possible and going beyond those boundaries to what's impossible, kind of like the way Fold It, that game that solved the HIV proteins, where all the gamers in 2 to 3 weeks grabbed little pieces of the protein folding puzzles and were able to do something that scientists couldn't do in 10 years. And one of the reasons they're able to do it is because their tactics are different. And this generative way of thinking about it, crowdsourcing ideas and going outside your boundaries, that's really where we see the promise of these technologies. So I wanted you to think about that, because I don't want you to think, they're replacing me. I will never be needed again. AI will take my job and I'm done. Life is over. It will run everything for me. Well, if it's based on how my references look, that no. But oh, did you have something to add there, Joyce?
No, sorry.
Always
That
feel
was just a
welcome
regular
to.
clear.
I love
the-
conversational. Yeah,
The
go ahead.
sad truth of it, though,
Yeah.
is even though we tell them not to use it that way, I can guarantee you that if it makes it look better, if it's faster, it's easier, you're going to have a lot of people, both the students and the teachers, that are using it. And even the teachers that tell you, at least from my own experience, our teachers told us not to use Wikipedia for our research, yet they were the ones that were constantly using it in the classroom.
Well, now that's an
so-
interesting point. At the New Media Consortium, which brought many of us here into these worlds back in 2005, 2006 and onward, they ran a conference session where they invited librarians and teachers to come in, and they constructed this large-scale thing that we stood on that was Wikipedia. I'm so glad you brought that up, because that's a very connected way of thinking. And when they did this, the thought here is, when would you use it? Not that you should avoid it. It's a secondary source. And since every one of us has the opportunity to contribute to it, right? This gives us a voice and power and control and also and responsibility, right? And we're going to have griefing. We're going to have people who add misinformation to it. So how does that impact our AI systems? Will we have that same level of misconduct? Will we worry about things like librarians call the CRAP test, the currency, relevance, accuracy, and those are the reasons we challenge Wikipedia as a source for research. But that doesn't mean it's not a departure point for investigation, and that's our point here with AI. It is a departure point, but you can tell if a student gives you a paper that's totally generated from an early prompt in ChatGPT, the references are going to be wrong. The citations are going to be creative, and you'll be able to quite easily spot check that. Now, interestingly, in the South Park episode, the teacher starts putting in the title of a paper, getting the great feedback from ChatGPT and pasting it in on the papers to cut the cognitive load for what it takes to grade so many papers. And I know many of us are thinking, is that wrong? And the answer, of course, is each student brings something interesting to the learning experience. And we really have to read their stuff and connect with how they're thinking to help clarify not only the concepts, but how to construct knowledge in the future, how to advance it. So I really want to invite you to use it as a tool for discovery and framing interesting answers and questions, but not as a single point answer, not to replace us. Here, I better look ahead a little bit. I hope I'm sharing. There are prompt guides. We put
Yes.
these links, great. We put these links in the document. We may add to it. So save our link because that document might change a little bit or grow. I did have something else from my research group that I was going to add for you. Let's see. Let me see if I can pull it up. One never knows, right? It's Harmony. It's Harmony Arts OpenAI, one word, .com, and I'll paste that into our Zoom chat here. Maybe I will. The chat, of course, keeps disappearing. That's what happens when you share, right? And when you come here, I invite you to try our stuff out. Here's what we are doing, and I know I'm 1 minute over, so I'll have to wrap. Scroll all the way down, and you will see that Dr. Stricker, Spinoza Quinnell, has written 39 little templates that take the task of interacting with these tools and makes it easy for us. And in our work in particular, I'll show you, we look at complex problems. So like the matrix game, the strategy games, the mission to Mars, how will we ever breathe on Mars? We're tackling some of those problems in our research. And we use these specialized prompts to narrow in on how Da Vinci, a more advanced version of ChatGPT, how it might support us in those investigations. We invite you to check it out. There's a free use. You're certainly welcome to use our tool. And this is coming from Virtual Harmony. It's part of our research. And we have these linked in the virtual world. So we use them as part of our normal educational builds and learning process. So I just wanted you to know this is coming from us, from our Red Queen, from the Mars expedition. And I'm going to turn it back over to our team and say, thank you. Have a great conference. And thank you to the organizers of the Virtual World's Best Practices in Education. Bye-bye.
And with that, I mean, I know we're at time, but if folks want to ask any questions, I mean, and there's still so much, like that document we did. This is sort of in some ways a reprisal variation of a workshop that we did for the Open Simulator Community Conference back in December. So, but even back in December, there were no such things as like, you know, Bing, the search engine using ChatGPT, and so much change is changed just even in those few months. So never mind all that. So as Lear was saying, we will continue to add to this document and I'll put that link in. Yeah, I will put that link in there again. And Dave will continue to show off his dog. But you can certainly that I think I made it so that way people can talk. If you guys want, if there's anybody that wants to.
I had one thing to add. Our work, by the way, occurs all in Open Simulator, and we have 16 to 21 grids of content and stuff. So if anyone's ever wondering, how do you link this stuff and how do you get everything to work in a connected fashion? Spinoza Quinnell is a great source for that. Dr. Stricker, back to you, Joyce.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And never mind how he uses cloud deployment of Open Simulator, which is pretty amazing. So yeah, though we won't really play with it now, like the last little final, like if you want to play with a tool, and hi Janie, if you want to play with a little quick tool, this is another person working on AI generative stuff. And it is completely something that you could put in a prompt just like in Midjourney or any of those other things. But this makes 360 skybox graphics, which, you know, mileage will vary depending upon you know, how it does it, but you can actually put in a prompt here at the bottom and it will generate. It takes a second. It's like one last little fun tool that you can play with forever. And you should be able to even play around with bringing it into, say, something like Second Life or Open
Oh,
Simulator.
yeah.
Yeah,
the
hollowing
we've
out-
already brought it into
generator.
OpenSim. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, hollowing out the inside of a sphere. And because this is like basically a 360 image it generates for you. And be able to use it to create a kind of virtual skybox. Or little like 360 kind of orb. You'd have to hollow out the inside of a sphere in, you know, sphere, hollow it out, and you can cut it a little bit. So if you want to be able to see inside the sphere, and on the inside surface, you want to apply the texture that it's gonna like, you know, it's going to give you, and you can actually just download right here. You click it, it downloads, and then you have a happy, and I'll bring this over, a happy like 360 image. You can also upload this into Facebook too, and like just like a 360 image, and it'll be like a little image people can look at. But you'd be able to put on the inside of a sphere, and then you make the outside of the sphere transparent, fully transparent, and you'd be able to see it inside the sphere if you want, or you can, you know, you don't have to make it transparent if you want people to see inside the sphere, or you can just make it like a surround. You can walk into it and suddenly you're in like, you know, on the moon. You know, and again, it, you know, it varies, and it has like little, it's a very simple in regards to put your prompt in text, use the drop down style kind of modifiers, and then hit generate, and there you go. But
And using
fun
it in a
nonetheless.
world, it kind of depends, because on some of them,
Yeah.
the avatar's position to the sphere makes it seem like it's just kind of a backdrop instead of an environment that you're in. So just realize that up front, that it might work for some things, but not for others.
Yeah. And I mean, the good thing of it though is just a free little tool that you can just keep making
That's cool. to play
various
with,
little
yeah.
ones until you find one that might work in the way that you want it. But just a tool that you could also then still bring in world for sure. I don't know if any folks have questions. We did set it up so people can unmute themselves. I mean, yeah, you can unmute yourself if you wanted to say anything. And then the notes, there's more links and resources that you can dive through. There's a lot more, because we started adding at the OSCC one, and we kind of keep the resources section and keep adding to it. So,
You know, Joyce, the one thing I didn't mention, and of course, hopefully the video's probably stopped and we're done, right? But it's the notion
I know,
that,
I think it's still recording, but I don't know.
if
Yeah,
they
it's still
scroll
recording.
down in
We're still
that
going.
document, okay, if they scroll down in that document, you'll notice that I asked it to write code to seed itself inside Open Simulator so I could interact with it, right? And it did it, but please realize it also gave a commentary on its weaknesses, and it points out that it doesn't have error handling, that it doesn't handle quite a few other features. And that's at the bottom. So if you scroll on down there, Joyce, if you're sharing it.
Yep. Let me go down.
Okay, wait, whoa. Okay, yes, there. And so I give everyone the code it generated on the right, and on the left, the narrative it gave before it, what I asked for. And I asked for LL. The reason I did is because I know that LSL in Open Simulator is OS, right? And I wanted the LL version to run in Open Simulator. That's why I was very explicit. And then, of course, it tells you have to add your API key. It will run, but only if people ask perfect prompts, right? So if they don't, then it's going to give them, you know, it's not going to handle the errors. It's going to perhaps blow up, etc. So there would be risks, and it points those out. And that's an opportunity for learners to discover how to address those issues. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And as Lear was saying, like, I mean, you can certainly use it to, like, you can use ChatGPT as she was to use it for helping with coding. I know Franz here that's on the call, you've certainly used it for for JavaScript and some other languages, right? And even
React, which is version of JavaScript, and doing 3DS, which is like three-dimensional objects in JavaScript, and using it to help me figure things out.
Yeah.
It's like, if you don't know exactly what you need, it won't give you like exactly like the right thing, right? So, but it did help me, like I'm asking questions in the right direction and it gave me some answers of code. And I'm like, oh, like it's trying to do this thing. It allowed me to then more fine tune like what I actually needed, like and actually just Google like the actual thing I needed. But
Yeah.
it
And
helped
so,
me in that way. Like normally you would ask a person, but if you have no one around, you're like, that person would say, oh, you think you're working towards this concept, and then that person would like tell you something or give you a link to somewhere to
so the ChatGPT kind of helped in that regard.
kind of help in that regard. Yeah.
Yeah. And certainly mileage varies because as Friends was saying, like the more context you have, the better prompt you can make, the more specific you can be with all the details that you need to be, the better the output that comes out of it. But you still, to what Lear was saying, you still need to be able to proof it. Like it's not going to be, it might, at this point, it's not that the perfection level of it is not reliable such that you could just be like, oh, this works. I showed very briefly to Lear, and I'll just ChatGPT in regards to the various things I played with. And again, ChatGPT also keeps a nice little recording of things, like, and again, you can clear your conversations, but don't if you want to keep your history. And the one that I was looking at, I was playing around with LSL for Second Life, and I can share this with people. And I sort of, I was asking it kind of what it knew, and then and ultimately, for just a test if its purpose is what it could do, I wanted a script such that it would change randomly both the image that was on the surface of the prim and the size and dimensions of the prim. And then also I added in some particles. So it was just a way for it to kind of like continually to be this dynamic thing where to see if it would just, be able to do this as a script. And as I kind of went through it, having too many functions I was doing all at once really was way too confusing with it, which it turned a lot of the dialogue between me and it was like, no, these scripts still have errors, right? Like there's errors here, and I keep telling it exactly what line the errors are on, and then it keeps apologizing, and and it went like this for a little while until I started to break it down with just function by function, like, where I started to say, okay, well, just give me a script that will change the size and textures of an object. And then, and I think I even had to simplify it sooner. So, and it still meant that I still had to be able to like know, and though I'm not myself a coder in that way, in the way that Franz is, it still allowed, you kind of have to still know enough to be able to know like when an error comes up. And again, I had to break it down like this is just changing the scripts of the object, and that I had to break it down in order to be able to catch the errors, So I had it write particle scripts, which is nice because I have no clue on how to write particle scripts otherwise, but I still had to be able to kind of check the errors that kind of came up. So yep, like, and so that, definitely interesting in that regard too. So any like questions from folks? You guys can unmute if you want. I know we're way past time, so, but if you want to ask questions, we're still kind of here, and there's so much, so much more we've compiled in that document, including another way that you can train a model. I'm still on camera, right? Let me, so there's a couple of things. There's links to the workshop we did at OSCC in the document too. And in it, Dave really goes through a lot of various tools and some workflows on how to create, like using like the Blender plugin, that like an AI generative plugin for Blender, and some other stuff more on the 3D asset side of things. So if you want to dive into that, look at what we did for that. And also there's some notes from one of the workflows of like looking at a video and sort of breaking down the tools used to make a video using these various AI tools that I kept. That's at the bottom of the notes. There's also notes on how to a different way to train your own, you train a model with your own kind of person, right? And especially with like the ethics of like whose images and who owns what. A lot of the stuff that I have played with and whatever, the biggest asset I have is like obviously myself, and you have copyright and ownership of your own self. So in regards to some of these tools, like training it for voice things and training it for image things, you can kind of play around with things like that. And using Astria, which is that tool that's at the very bottom, which again kind of gets into some coding and Python stuff, but there's some steps and directions. You'd be able to actually output your own version of Stable Diffusion that then has what you have trained as a model, and you could run it on your own machine. And like an example, and I'll see if this book were all images again, because like you have the resources, these were the images that went into training the model, right? And training the specific model on how to recognize me. And by the way, this was a gift to me for my significant other, so I'm not just always hanging out making vanity projects. But and you can kind of see based off of style and various other things how once you train the model, how it can kind of reference things based off of the prompts that you can put in, and you reference that new subject you've trained, and you can keep kind of making
I
stylized.
like the lightsaber one.
Yeah.
dark
So
side.
comic book style and all kinds of other things.
Yeah.
So, and that's using Stable.
What are the legalities of what you generate and what the system generates in terms of like students who use AI to produce papers and then they turn them in as though they were their own.
Yeah.
And a teacher wouldn't be able to know this unless they were very familiar with that student's style of writing and so on. And I'm just wondering if someone's actually working on all the ethics and legalities of what you pass off as yours and what is not yours, basically.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, Lear, if you want to talk about that, but there is a tool that she brought up, and some of it does come down to that, like papers wise, like Lear was saying, looking at the references and the things that they're pointing to that there's going to have to probably be, and I don't know your
What is
thoughts
it you
on
want
this.
to know?
She was asking about the kind of those ethical ramifications, especially in regards to students
Sure.
submitting papers that are written via chat
That's
GPT.
such a great question.
If I was a teacher right now of young kids, like middle school to high school and stuff, I would do a lot of in-class writing early in the year. And a lot of maybe even make them do assignments in school for a while until I'm familiar enough with them to know what they're capable of.
There's a term called flipping the classroom. If you go Google it, you'll find that it's been used quite effectively. What they do is they have them do the assignments during the time in class so that they have somebody that can help them if they run into a tight spot. And then they leave the stuff for homework as stuff that gives them research to understand the material further, like watching videos on the history of things and all that. So that's just a concept you could always employ, and that way you get a chance to see how they're doing it instead of them doing it behind the curtain.
And I
like
use
that.
flipped classroom approach, Janie. And just so you know, one of my thoughts was we need to have our students talk more and express the ideas from their written work so that we're not worried about, is it their work? Is it someone else's work? But instead, have they learned? What is their cognitive, benefit from this experience? And so I think we're going to see a transition in how we schedule assignments and assess their abilities and these various literacies. And I love that because my favorite tactic is cognitive apprenticeship, which means we work together. And I observe the process of learning as well as the product. So I don't just look at the outcome. I'm interested in the journey and how they can use that in the future when they're done with my class.
Yeah. Are they learning to learn? Are they learning how to learn and unlearn? Yeah. Yeah. good. I'm glad there's already tactics in schools getting out there. That's good to know.
Well, that
Yeah,
doesn't mean other
they're out
people
there, but
agree
I'd
with
say
me, by the way.
sadly that a lot of the instructors that are teaching don't know about them. And usually it seems like the students know better than the teachers do. So they know how to sidestep those issues.
3 of my 5 universities have decided to ban ChatGPT and OpenAI and all forms of AI. And I said, that's like banning search engines, because it's being seeded in most of your products. Microsoft's going to have it in Office 365. It's going to have it in it's already in the search engine in some form, right? It's already in Bing. It's already in Azure. It's already throughout the professional practice. So we really need to learn to get ahead of it and to understand its use and how to build upon it, to use it for very creative ways, not to fear it and not to think of it as the enemy. I'm reminded of the slide rule and the calculator. When they first came out, I was using a slide rule, and the calculator, everyone thought, oh, that'll be the death of math. People will not learn math in the future. And my thought is applied math and the process of it and all the parts that we value most. It's not, don't fear the tools.
Yeah. And there's a lot of, outside of the education space too, there's a lot of fear about creativity in general.
Yeah, people in general, AI, people are terrified of it. I'm doing
Well,
my
Schmidt
experiment.
was saying that
I'm more scared of the political
there would be nothing to
application.
stop people who are sociopaths from learning a lot about how to make bombs and how to do all kinds of mischief using AI as a great source for.
Yeah, but that
You can always
They
do that
already
with
have that.
Wikipedia.
you could go
You
to
do
the
it right now with
library and get
Wikipedia.
that.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, there's Christopher, to your point too, there's like some interesting articles in the resources where, there's some folks like both the point of view, especially like, from and we could look for some of these that more focus on the educational side of it too. But there's some articles in there too from the creative piece where there are people really having huge kind of like camps that are kind of
Meltdowns.
breaking off in regards to the creative space of it. Like, is this the the end of creativity and art? Are folks gonna and even
No, it's for me, it's the birth of realization that we need to have space where creativity can be creativity without the influence of AI for mental health reasons, just like not just to satiate fear, but to give an ongoing sense of trust that we are humanity and that our influences are from others rather than us being programmed as we mirror technology as the artist. We obviously are no longer mirroring humanity. We are mirroring a machine. So I think that the fear is justifiable. But I think that at the same time, it gave Second Life an opportunity to prove itself the platform of choice for those that want to be once removed from the influence of it, yet be able to operate with full communications and their passions within the safe zone. All these other people that are coming up in the space want to, well, I'm going to knock it. Mid-Journey, I don't have a bone for Philip. It's not a bone of contention. It's just that I think instead of it being focused on that, I think it should be focused on allowing for. I think what it is that they've done. I don't know if maybe they did it all together in concert, but they made AI beautiful.
Yeah.
When I make an experience, I'm making my AI, like my ChatGPT, as you're talking to it as an invalid, getting it to morph your shared lucid daydream to be as inclusive as I possibly can. They had to be butterfly fairies because it's scary. Like the unknown is terrifying. And to go into a space where you don't know, we're going to see a huge amount of people that have paranoid schizophrenia thinking that every screen that they see is AI telling them things to do. Like we're talking
Yeah.
about psychosis that has never been experienced in human history. And we need to
Yeah.
be able to assure these people that they have safety. So
And-
I'm excited. I'm excited that Second Life took it on for education. I'm excited about a lot of it. I just think that we should be kind of just being safe zone for it, so that people have a sense of security. The big AI companies that come out now are going to be the ones that can prove that they are trustworthy enough, for like their actors or whatever are the ones that people want to work with, because it's so easy to replicate what they do into an entire other entity.
Yeah, and a lot of them are working off some of even the same research images pools as for their models to begin
and
with.
well, yeah, and we would easily be. You're easily able to connect this to Unity, to Unreal Engine. Unreal Engine by 2030 is going to do everything needed within the industry to make fluid major motion pictures or AAA games using the commands of your voice. That, connected to Second Life, allows you to manifest entire recreations of the world with physics. And then as you change that world, you could actually decide upon what you were going to do collectively together to get everything to domino and effect, so that you're working in concert as cities, more so like if you're a million jellyfish all singing in concert. That has never been experienced. And safety, I think, is going to be paramount. So I think art, for me, I'm focusing on religion. I'm here. I came into Second Life. I've been around for 8 years. My avatar looks really young. So I'm not daft as to what's going on. I studied because I wanted to understand how humanity was to interact with three-dimensional communications and what it meant for their souls. Like did it mean to them spiritually, and how they communicated differently using the energy in this format. I myself, focusing on art, I want to go to Vatican City, and then I want to go to Saudi Arabia, and I want to do everything I can to see if we can bridge something artistically between those two and China in like a triad, and then do a small triad within the Middle East of efforts of people bringing together the world in order for us to move and fast forward safely together. I think Second Life is the perfect platform for the Western world to connect over. So all we have to do is just use Unreal Engine and Unity along with the clouds in order for us to communicate in their version that they want on all three, and then people could do it on whatever they want. But I think that we have already built ours, and we can demonstrate to them how it works. So I'm excited for tomorrow.
Yes.
Thank you for your talk, and everybody, everything that you've done. You gave me so much hope.
That was
Yeah, you're
great.
welcome.
Thanks.
I know that tomorrow, as you said, like there will be that further discussion. I don't know if Lear, if you have the details, like there will be a VWBPE quadrivium discussion about AI.
You want the link on that, or yes?
Yeah,
is
you can put
one.
that in
Yes,
chat.
thanks to it.
Yeah. And
Yes,
there's been kind of quite a couple of other presentations and things. And I'm sure AI is coming up in general in many of the discussion-y pieces because it is so just like, everywhere right now. But there's been a couple other presentations, part of VWBPE, that were also touching upon AI in regards to using it in like education, language learning, those kind of things. So definitely look for the videos that come out of that. And then the quadrivium discussion tomorrow is kind of I think a culmination in some ways of this thread of some of the presentations leading up to, a discussion on that, and certainly like, the document we put together, there's lots of stuff in there that deals with the ethics or people talking about the ethics or the creative piece of it, or some of that, like, what does some of this stuff mean to even like, the, careers, like especially what, some of the more knowledge sector
I
careers.
work for AI.
Yeah.
I would love to do the future society build in Second
Mhm.
Life. I
Yeah,
don't know if
that'd
you're
be
familiar
great.
with them. I think that'd be
Yes.
awesome.
Yes.
AI and the rule of law.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah,
there have been
that'd
some
be
people
good.
who've contemplated stuff like that in Second Life, you know, through the years. Like the Long Now Foundation came in and did a thing for a little bit. But I mean that was quite a while ago. But you know, so there have been some people who've come in and done things through time.
To answer
But
your
yeah.
question, the times on those sessions. Let's
the time.
see, you know, Kay Novak also has one that's spanning a variety of technologies, including AI. And hers is in the afternoon. It's 2 o'clock, but we have a 10 a.m. and both of them are quadriviums. They both have compass points, etc.
Oh, good.
And there's going to be at least two more opportunities. The 10 o'clock is on ChatGPT and plagiarism and cheating.
Yeah, so there you go. You can double
Yeah.
down on that.
Yeah.
You know, and on for our part, you know, we'll keep kind of putting resources in. And so even some of the relevant presentations, there's like a section on presentations, like there's the link to our OSCC one. When this is recorded, we'll put the link to this and like some of the others that came out of VWBPE that, you know, as references. You know, we're kind of all in this together. And I think this whole peer chat and learning is, you know, kind of, you know, is I think what is a good model for the now. And to your point, like Leah and Dave about the whole flipping the classrooms and those things are, as you said, Leah, like good models, no, regardless thereof, right? Like even if
Mhm.
AI was not
Mhm.
involved, they're great for engagement.
Yes.
And, you know, so,
Well, plus, nobody wants to get on to Zoom or at some technology and listen to
Yeah.
you lecture, right? They really want to apply, create, practice, discover, and then get this guided mentorship, which I think is
Yeah.
critical. That's why I love cognitive apprenticeship.
yeah,
Much
yeah.
better than death by PowerPoint.
Yes.
Yes, or
Yes.
Zoom. Although we are sitting in Zoom. To that point too, like post this thing, the Midjourney stuff that we were doing in the Avicon server, right? So the Avicon server that is there as in Discord in general is there as a resource. So they're you know, you continue to keep using it as a space to collaboratively play with Discord and ask
What is
questions.
Avicon?
Avicon is the 501c3 nonprofit that I co-founded. And it's focused
Oh.
around kind of communities and virtual worlds.
Awesome.
Initially, we were running the last of the two Second Life community conventions that happened in a hybrid style, and this was in 2010 and 2011. One in Boston, one in Oakland. You know, little under 400 to a little above 400 one year to the next. And people that were there, and then a virtual audience as well. And with sectors where Kevin Phelan Corrimal, for those who know, he's one of the organizers of VWBPE, was the education track chair, and we had various tracks and stuff like that. So, but Avicon organized that. We organized the Open Simulator Community Conference every year, and that's a virtual event that happens usually in December. And we kind of pair up with some other events, like we help out Virtual Ability with their events and help them stream it. And so our core is really this sort of focused around metaverse technologies, and not using metaverse, and it's like more, you know, I'm not just using it lightly in the cool hip way that it is now, but we actually used it in our incorporations and filing with the IRS even back in 2010 when we filed.
Has anyone been talking about using the metaverse to bridge with the Saudi Arabian one that they're going to be publishing and China's?
Well,
in order for us to translate between them so that we could communicate as nations of people, but with whatever they wanted.
Yeah, there were some. The State Department was in Second Life for a while, and they did some interesting projects with like most of them are like cultural exchange related stuff that were happening in virtual ways. So like they had a Kansas to Cairo where they had sort of focused on the future building of cities, both with architects in Kansas City and in Cairo, Egypt, and getting them to communicate. There are still some educators that are doing kind of cross-related stuff like that. I mean, Janie, I know that
International Student Program. Yeah.
Yeah. What Whole Brain Health has as a program with folks in Turkey. Are they in Turkey?
Turkey and Ireland and someone in Spain.
Yeah. And a good friend who still comes into Second Life sometimes, but um, did a bunch of grant funded nonprofit educational projects where there were exchanges where she was working with a lot of refugees, refugee settlements, and then also bringing them in conjunction with other students. Those were student educational things. I worked for an educational nonprofit in New York City, Global Kids, for many years. There used to be a teen Second Life grid long, long ago, and we had space there. We did some exchanges too, where though those were more domestic, like folks, students in inner cities in Chicago and New York, and bringing them together with like folks who might have been experts in Tanzania or Zambia or other countries. And
I would like
yeah.
I would really like to focus on the mass migrations necessary for humanity to pass like a sense of judgment of mercy upon ourselves as climate change happens, so we do not do what it is that we would have otherwise had done had we not collectively worked together to save those people.
Yeah. So I would at least in Second Life, I would suggest to you, so like another thing, like Avacon sponsors the Nonprofit Commons fiscally, which that's been a group, community group originally led by TechSoup, which is another nonprofit though out of San Francisco.
Is anybody from Yale's Forum on Religion and Ecology present?
I mean, not that I know of, but that doesn't mean that might not be the case, right? And many of us, like you talk about being around for a long time, right? Like I started in Second Life in January of 2005, and many of us have kind of seen the waves ebb and flow through the years, and there was a whole kind of eco island that they used to be part of our kind of social good continent of various people, like and MacArthur Foundation, the State Department, there were some eco groups, Nonprofit Commons as it is, the International Criminal Court. We had like a mini continent of this continent of regions put together by various things. So there had been periods of time where organizations in those ways were together, and there still are some nonprofit and social good focused folks that are part of the Nonprofit Commons community that are focused around the ecology space of things. There's one of our organization members that's in France, Jacques, who works with like the French government and a lot of the UN related things in regards to climate issues. So
That sounds like my kind of people.
yeah, so
That's
definitely.
nice.
So we meet every
Nice that
Friday.
they're around.
Yes, so we meet every Friday in Second Life at 8:30 in the morning Pacific time, and we've been meeting every Friday since
Wait, I wasn't
2006.
paying attention. Yeah,
Nonprofit Commons.
I've been in naughty bits. We'll just say that, like my Second Life experience, very much more adult orientated. I have to
Yeah,
say.
and
I was fighting the fight though. I was just. This
yeah,
was my escape.
certainly there's no, I mean, I think, both education and learning, and then also the social good space, that kind of thing, like, draws people from all over, and certainly for myself, like I focused a good portion of my presence around Second Life in regards to social good related stuff. And you have no better example than like something like the American Cancer Society and their fundraising for cancer, where you have groups, whether they be role play groups or adult groups or folks like us that are like part of nonprofits or educators or whatever, that all come together for good purposes, right? So that has never really been an issue in that regard. So I just popped a link in for Nonprofit Commons, the URL to that.
I do have one question. Sorry.
Sure.
Actually, I can ask later on somebody else. I don't want to hold everybody up. But most people already know the answers to, so I'm just going to wait. I'll ask somebody that I know.
Sure. Okay. And yeah, I mean, for that, but on the Nonprofit Commons side of things, like we meet every Friday morning at 8:30 a.m. and that's been happening consistently for the last almost 16 years. So
I wanted to contact somebody because on the sign at the nonprofit commons, it says, oh, volunteer. And then they give you this person, but you weren't able to make a link or be able to communicate with that person. using
well,
the
you
name any
can
longer.
certainly, I host the meetings and you know, and our org pays the bills. So at this point, but you can, and I put my Rihanna Chat Noir, my funny
We're
Gaelic.
friends, I think. Oh no,
Yeah,
we're not.
so
I know I've just seen you around so much.
you can definitely send, any of you can send me a friend request. I mean, most of us, like obviously Lear Lobo, she's also part of Nonprofit Commons too. Janie and Marley, a lot of us kind of, we're all kind of part of that greater.
Are you from Builders Brewery?
No, but Janie does some work there.
I do work
Oh,
there.
okay.
I'm gonna type in my
I'm in Bildersbury too.
Oh, yeah, and
Yeah,
Lear,
you
yeah.
are.
I used to have land that was near Bildersbury.
To answer your
Does that
question,
count?
Christopher, I've taken 700 classes, 700 more than.
Oh, at Bildersbury or in
Not
various
just
other
there,
SL?
but other places
Yeah.
too. But certainly,
Wow.
I'm kind of a class junkie. I
And
like
a teaching and
learn.
speaking junkie.
Yeah, there's that too. This is my 344th, 45th talk. 345th talk, at conferences. But no, I love Bildersbury, and and I will attend multiple versions of the same class just to study how they teach certain skills, so I can do that better with my classes, right? Yeah. So
I've been going around trying to find people to help along the way. Ended
sure.
up helping Neuralinks. Do you remember
Oh, yeah.
Neuralinks? I don't know if they stuck around
Yeah.
after, but I
I
ended
don't
up
know.
taking a break for a while because I needed a sabbatical.
Sure.
They
Yeah.
actually convinced me to really pursue what it is that I was aiming for.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
yeah.
Good.
So certainly,
I just came back like 2 weeks ago. Oops, sorry.
yeah,
I put my
your avatar name.
my name. Yeah, my avatar names.
Mhm.
Legacy and the other one.
You're so far away from the mic, cat's eye.
Also, you
There you go.
mentioned, yeah, you mentioned interest in ecology, and there's a place called Ecotopia. And
Yeah, I've been there.
Yeah, okay. Just
Yeah.
long as you know about
What
it.
I'm wondering about, because what I'm wondering about is that like we should be able to connect conversational artificial intelligence in order to manifest three-dimensional, so that we just draw upon whatever assets, and then be able to do like to-scale recreations of the necessary infrastructure for cities and territories, so people would be able to experience it. And I think that like as far as like all the supporting system and everything, you already have a foundation, so your core is not going to ever go away, so it's not a risk. If you just add the extension onto it, so that at the end of it, you end up with measurable real world results, so that people coming in are saying, okay, hey, this is what we started with, this is what we got, and this is how much money we saved people, or how many jobs that we were able to make using the platform. I'm really trying to see if anybody has been giving a full, to the point where it's like the influence that you have inside a Second Life literally down the road certainly measurably affects what it is that's going to be done by a robot or an automated system benefiting humanity.
Yeah. I mean, there's certainly lots of things to sort of, I think, ways to kind of approach that. But yeah, come to the Nonprofit Commons meetings. I think that's a good place to start to find other folks that might be interested in the point of view of some of these things, right, that you're looking at. And then others too, if you're on the educational side, the Virtual World Education Consortium is another great place to sort of share, and you'll hear that come up in the VWBPE circles, I'm sure. But so we should probably wrap up, at least to sort of stop the recording and to wrap up things here. Maybe even eat. It might be nice to eat.
Eating. Yes, I like that idea.